If you're noticing these shifts, it's not a coincidence. It points to a deeper truth. You're already moving toward real wealth. Not just money in the bank, but the kind of wealth that begins in the mind, where every meaningful achievement is born. Understand this. Every legacy, every real success, every lasting fortune started not in the physical world, but as something subtle, almost invisible, a quiet decision made deep within. If you're seeing these signs, it means that seed has been planted, and now it's beginning to grow. One of the first signs? A growing discomfort with mediocrity. What you once accepted without question now feels hollow. Routines that used to pass the time now drain your spirit. You can't sit still in a life that no longer fits. This isn't just restlessness, it's clarity. You're beginning to recognize what's out of alignment, not just with your goals, but with who you're becoming. You find yourself turning away from distractions, from surface-level talk, from habits that once felt harmless. And in that quiet refusal, something powerful is happening. You're making space, not for noise, but for direction, not for approval, but for vision. You're no longer impressed by appearances. You want depth. You want meaning. Not by accident, but by design. This shift isn't loud. It's not always visible to others. But inside, you feel it. Your time has become precious. You no longer give it away freely. You understand now that time is the true currency. And you've stopped spending it. You're starting to invest it. You say no more often now. Not to be distant, but to stay aligned. Because every moment spent on what doesn't matter is a moment stolen from what does. You're not escaping anymore. You're building. You're not watching others create. You're creating. And that shift? That's wealth. The kind that can't be taken from you. Where others scatter their energy, you direct yours. Where others react, you pause and respond. You're moving with quiet purpose now, not chasing, attracting. This is what happens when you stop waiting for the right time and begin to walk as if the time is now, because it is. The man lost in confusion, no matter how full his bank account, is still poor in direction. You've started thinking beyond the moment, and that's a powerful shift. You're no longer living off emotional impulse. You're learning to zoom out, to see in years, not days. You don't just chase income anymore. You're building systems. You're building something that lasts. That means structure. That means patience. You're investing in assets now, not just financial, but personal. Character, skill, integrity, things that compound over time. You've started asking different questions. How will this serve me 5 years from now? Instead of, how does this make me feel today? That single shift, quiet as it seems, is the foundation of real success. It's how empires begin. You see money differently now, too. You've stopped fearing it. You've stopped worshiping it. You respect it. You know money is a tool, not a goal, a reflection of value, not just effort. You're learning how to multiply your value, not just trade your time, through systems, through leverage, through creating instead of just working. That's wealth consciousness, and it lives in the mind long before it shows up in your life. You've dropped the old habits of a poor mindset, blaming, complaining, waiting. You no longer look outward for signs. You've realized you are the sign. You're the one who moves first. You're the one who says, it starts with me. That's real power, and power always comes before prosperity. Another shift. You're hungry to grow. You're reading more, listening differently, asking questions that challenge your old patterns. You've traded small talk for substance, replaced gossip with guidance, theory with action. And yes, your execution isn't always perfect, but it's consistent. And consistency creates momentum, not speed, momentum. Speed fades, momentum compounds. Every focused hour you put in, every hard decision you honor, every disciplined day you show up, it builds something solid in you. And people feel that. Opportunities feel that. The world responds to someone who's serious about what they're building, not serious in mood, but in mission. You smile more now, not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. You've stopped panicking. You've stopped waiting for things to get better. You act like someone who's already seen the future and decided to meet it prepared. That's how the great ones move. They walk ahead of the results. They don't wait for validation. They carry themselves like it's already happening. And now you do the same. You've become intentional with your words. You speak to create, not just to fill silence. You've stopped saying, I hope, or maybe. You say, I will, I am. It's done. That shift in language is no small thing. When a man owns his words, he begins to shape his reality. And your circle is changing too, not out of pride, but out of purpose. You've outgrown conversations built on comfort, not because you're above anyone, but because you're building something that requires more. You know now, proximity is power, and mediocrity is contagious. You've started placing yourself in rooms that challenge you, rooms where growth is the standard, where you're not the smartest, but you're learning faster because of it. You're no longer just learning how to earn. You're learning how to build a philosophy, a system, a legacy, and that's carrying you forward. Even when things get hard, you don't fold like you used to. Adversity doesn't break you anymore. It builds you. As you grow, something begins to shift. You start to see challenges not as setbacks, but as training. Failure no longer feels like the end. It's become a teacher. Pain doesn't scare you anymore. You've learned to work with it, learn from it, and let it fuel you. Because of that, you move through life's tests with more ease and grace. That's a clear sign. You're being shaped for something greater. Great wealth, real success. It requires more than ambition. It requires a strong foundation. And that foundation is character. If you're seeing these signs, it means your character is growing. You're becoming more intentional with your words. You're finishing what you start. You're showing up, even when the motivation isn't there. You're becoming someone who can be trusted. And trust always comes before transfer. That's not just a principle. It's a spiritual law. When you become trustworthy, wealth starts to find you. Why? Because wealth is energy, and energy flows to structure. When you build a structure, through habits, vision, service, and consistency, abundance begins to move toward you. Not because you forced it, but because you became ready for it. You've stopped guessing. You're executing. You've stopped hoping. You're building. And that's the clearest sign of all. You're on the path to real wealth. There's a quiet moment in every person's journey when things start to change. Not because of what they have, but because of who they're becoming. The shift is subtle. It doesn't come with fanfare. It comes in the form of new standards. It shows up when you hold yourself accountable, especially when no one's watching. It reveals itself when you choose to do what's difficult because your future deserves it. If these signs are showing up in your life, you're no longer chasing money. You're becoming the kind of person money is drawn to. And remember this, the person who is truly wealthy doesn't lead with money. They lead with value. They lead with purpose. They lead with clarity. Because they know wealth isn't pursued, it's attracted. You attract wealth by being useful, by being consistent, by being excellent at what you do. Every time you increase your value to others, you expand your capacity for wealth. The world is full of people who want to be rich, but it's built by those who make themselves valuable. So look at your habits. If they've shifted toward long-term gain over short-term pleasure, That's not random. That's a signal. You don't eat just for taste. You eat for energy. You don't sleep to avoid life. You rest to renew. You don't scroll to kill time. You read to grow. These aren't small details. These are identity-level changes. And identity is the engine of wealth. When your identity evolves, your standards rise. What you tolerate changes. The poor mindset excuses bad habits. The wealthy mindset builds around discipline. Discipline isn't restriction, it's protection. It protects your time, your energy, and your focus. Without it, nothing meaningful lasts. With it, everything becomes possible. If your mornings are becoming more structured, your environment more intentional, your schedule more aligned, that's not coincidence. That's the behavior of someone preparing to steward wealth, not just survive life. Because the truth is, you don't carry wealth, you grow into the person who can. If you're still thinking like a man just trying to get by, it's time for a shift. You must begin to think like a man carrying legacy, one who understands that his actions echo beyond today. A man of legacy doesn't waste time in pointless arguments. He doesn't seek approval in the noise. He knows his worth isn't defined by applause, but by the principles he stands on. He understands that real wealth isn't just about income. It's about what he builds, what he protects, and what he can pass on. So the next generation doesn't have to start from scratch. One sign you're on the path to lasting wealth: your relationship with work has matured. You've stopped asking for shortcuts. You're no longer chasing ease or glorifying effortless income. Instead, you're becoming valuable, intentionally and consistently, because leverage only matters when there's value to amplify. Now you see hard work differently. It's not something to run from. It's a process you respect, a discipline you embrace. What once felt like a grind now feels like growth. Because each repetition, each focused task, each deliberate hour, it all builds competence. And competence is its own kind of currency. Wealthy men master something, not everything, but something meaningful. They choose, they commit, they refine. And in that clarity, they find strength. You're no longer distracted by every new trend. You're not chasing every shiny idea. You've chosen your mission. You've found your vehicle. And now you're going deeper. Because surface-level effort only leads to surface-level results. But depth builds dominion. Another sign you're evolving: you've learned to manage your emotions. Where you once reacted, you now respond. Where you once panicked, you pause. Where you once internalized everything, now you examine with clarity. You know emotional intelligence isn't weakness, it's wisdom in action. It gives you control when others are ruled by impulse. It helps you make decisions guided by principle, not pressure. And that strength, that calm presence, is part of your power. What makes a man a leader? What makes you a man capable of leading? A man capable of building? A man capable of multiplying? Multiplication is the key, not just in finances, but in self. When you start thinking in terms of multiplying your time, your skills, your ideas, and your influence, your mind begins to operate from a place of wealth. Because wealthy thinking isn't about spending more. It's about multiplying wisely. Where a limited mindset chases the next thrill, the next shortcut, the next hit of validation, a growth mindset focuses on the long game, on building, not just consuming. That's why you're studying instead of scrolling, why you're building systems rather than avoiding problems, why you're choosing to invest your energy rather than waste it. You've begun to see that every choice is either an asset or a liability. Every habit either works for you or against you. And because of that insight, you've started making decisions not just based on how you feel in the moment, but based on the man you're becoming. This is where everything shifts, when your vision begins to outweigh your emotions, when your purpose speaks louder than your pain, When your decisions are based on direction, not comfort. That's not just personal growth. That's preparation for something bigger. You're not just setting goals anymore. You're building structure. You track how you spend your time. You monitor your habits. Not because you're rigid, but because you're learning to be responsible. And responsibility is the foundation of freedom. Wealth doesn't thrive in chaos. It flows toward order, discipline, and intention. Another change you might have noticed: your internal dialogue is evolving. You don't punish yourself for every mistake. You learn. You reset. You speak truth to yourself. Because before you can lead others, you must be able to lead yourself. And that leadership starts in the mirror. Each morning you choose which voice you follow. Now you choose the voice of strength. You speak with clarity, not hype. You've outgrown empty motivation. You're no longer impressed by loud performances that lack substance. You value consistency. You admire humility. You seek wisdom over noise. And that shift, that quiet strength, is magnetic. It draws in the kind of wealth that lasts. Let's talk about what's not always seen. If this resonates with you, it may be because you've become more aware. You sense misalignment. You can feel when someone's actions don't match their words. You notice when an opportunity doesn't fit, even if it looks appealing. This isn't weakness, it's discernment. And discernment is a form of intelligence. It means your intuition is strengthening. You're not anxious. You're simply aware. Aware of your choices, of your tendencies, of your blind spots. And that awareness allows you to pivot before things go wrong. That's often the difference between those who keep what they build and those who don't. It's not about being the smartest in the room. It's about being willing to adjust, to ask better questions, and to evolve when it matters. If you're practicing that kind of humility, know this: you are walking a rare and valuable path. This journey isn't for everyone. It's not for the crowd. It's for those who commit, those who stay when it's difficult, those who move forward when others hesitate. That's you now. You're not just looking for more. You're becoming more. Your outer world may not reflect it fully yet. You may still be building, still climbing. But inside, you already know. You are not the same man you were. Your mind is clearer. Your habits are stronger. Your values are deeper. And you're not going back. That, right there, is wealth. Not just what you have, but who you are becoming. And all the signs are already here. You're becoming the kind of man who knows how to earn, manage, and grow wealth. Not just financially, but mentally and emotionally as well. And that's invaluable. If you're still recognizing the signs, and more importantly, living them, then hear this clearly. Wealth is no longer just a possibility. It's inevitable. Why? Because you've become the kind of man wealth naturally serves. You've moved beyond chasing success like it's something out of reach. You've stepped into alignment, where your thoughts, choices, actions, and standards consistently reflect abundance. Look at how you now approach your mornings. They're no longer rushed or reactive. They're intentional. You rise with purpose. You take control of your day instead of letting it control you. That's not a small shift. It's the foundation of long-term wealth. When you approach every day with intention, you plant the seeds of success. Keep showing up like this day after day, year after year. And the outcome isn't a question. It's a certainty. Wealth doesn't flow to the scattered. It flows to those with focus, discipline, and clarity. And that's who you've become, a man with direction and purpose. Even your goals have evolved. You're no longer chasing status. You're focused on creating real impact. You're not just looking for money to feel powerful. You've realized true power is being in control of yourself. You've found that real freedom isn't about buying more. It's about needing less. From that space, you operate with strength and stability. And that kind of man, He can't be manipulated, distracted, or bought. That's why wealth gravitates toward him. You've adopted the mindset of a creator, not a consumer. You've stopped asking, "What can I get?" and started asking, "What can I give that multiplies?" That's the difference between those who hope for wealth and those who build it. Wealth follows value, and value comes from a trained mind and sharpened skills. You're sharpening daily, thinking clearer, solving faster, communicating with more precision. That's the real evidence of growth. And behind it all is the most powerful shift of all: identity. When your identity changes, everything else follows. You don't say, "I'm trying" anymore. You say, "I'm becoming." You don't hope. You expect. You move like it's already happening. You work like the outcome is already yours. You've built inner certainty, and that's what the world responds to. Energy doesn't lie. When your mind is made up, reality adjusts. Even when it's quiet, you're building. You don't need applause to keep going. You don't need permission. You've become your own standard, your own proof, your own accountability. You no longer outsource your discipline. You no longer need accountability to act. You do what you said because you said it. And that kind of integrity? That's true wealth. No contradictions, no masks, no double life. One vision, one mission, one man. You've developed true vision, not something printed on a poster, but something etched in your spirit. You speak life into dry places. You plant when others complain. You build when no one's watching. And for that, you'll harvest what others only dream about. Not by chance, not through inheritance, but by law. The law of cause and effect, the law of belief, the law of ownership, the law of clarity. And here's what proves it. You're unshakable now. Delay doesn't shake you. Rejection doesn't define you. Setbacks don't stop you. Why? Because you've trained your mind to see pain as preparation. You've mastered the art of transformation. You're an alchemist, turning pressure into progress, loss into leverage, delay into direction. And because of that, you're already wealthy. The world is just catching up. You've made excellence a way of life, not just something you turn on when it's convenient, but who you are, even when no one is watching. You lead with integrity. You move with purpose. You've stopped chasing goals for the sake of noise and started building systems that quietly shape your future. Goals can inspire, but it's systems that build. And you're building every single day. You've let go of the rush for quick wins. Now you're focused on showing up consistently because you understand small efforts done with intention stack over time into something unshakable. You're not building for the moment. You're building for your legacy. You're not here to impress. You're here to endure. And that perspective, that commitment to the long game, makes true wealth not just possible, but inevitable. So if you're seeing the signs, if you're more patient, more focused, more aligned, you're not behind. You're not off track. You're being refined. Everything you're becoming now, the discipline, the clarity, the calm strength, isn't an accident. It's confirmation that you're becoming the man you were always meant to be. That man is already in you. He's the one who rises early, who learns instead of complains, who acts instead of hesitates. He doesn't wear success like a costume. He lives it. And with every day, he grows, sharper in thought, stronger in presence, clearer in vision. You don't owe anyone proof. You owe yourself follow-through. You owe your future family the version of you who didn't fold when things got tough. You owe your calling a man who answered, fully, faithfully, without excuse. So keep going. Walk steady. Keep building. The world might not notice today, but wealth already has, because the man you are now, disciplined, aligned, steady, becoming, is exactly the man wealth has been waiting for all along.